my beautiful family. I thought I would make contact with you all again just to say hi and also deliver some valuable messages. And this message this evening is all about aligning our plan with God's plan, or rather aligning with God's plan so that what we do works better, so that what we do has much more power and effect and impacts on the world in a much more fruitful way. And by that, what I mean is that so often in life we are under the illusion that we must do this thing that we're supposed to be doing. And I have been guilty of this for a very long time in my life. I've followed my heart, my desires, my own personal desires, wishing to develop things and produce projects that weren't necessarily what God wanted me to actually do. And you start to realize after a while that it's a little bit like, if you look at it from the perspective of the enemy blesses those who are doing his bidding. So if you are doing the bidding of the enemy, guess what? You are going to be looked after. You are going to be financially looked after, because he is the Lord of this earth. Jesus is very much the power of the universe. He is God. He could give you anything and everything that you desire. But what happens is that what's required for earth, for our journey here on earth, is very different to what the enemy is offering. The enemy offers materialism, material things, humanism, right? Anything that relates to a material experience is what the enemy is offering. We know that God is completely in charge of everything that's going on, right? Nothing happens without God's permission, nothing. But the way the enemy works is that the enemy is also entitled to his souls. He's also entitled to his harvest of those that do not wish to have God in their lives, those who wish to be dispossessed of heaven, dispossessed of their inheritance in heaven, and those who wish to have this other thing. Erroneously, of course. They don't realize that what they're thinking they're going to get is completely different to what they're actually going to get. So most people are under the illusion that in hell it's a all-night bar with a buffet that just never ends, with all the sensual pleasures that they can possibly imagine, and it's all going to be super fun, and they can be as raucous, as irreverent, as blasphemous, as destructive as they desire to be, and that their father, the enemy, I will not mention the enemy's name, will give them everything that they desire, right? The enemy, Satan, which is the accuser, is not going to give them any of that, because Satan is going to be in a place called hell, the pits of hell, the pit of hell. And he has no dominion over that pit. He's literally incarcerated, just like all those that will land up in that place. Because that place was designed, built for the rebellious beings that are against God's goodness and holiness. Because ultimately, God desires his people, those whom he loves, that love him, and the enemy desires to bring tarnation to everyone else that falls for his traps. I was telling a friend of mine of a different religion this evening, earlier today. I said, you know, the enemy has got 1.2 billion of your people in the bag, right? Because she kept saying she can't be wrong. Everything she has always worshipped in the past must be right, and it's all idol. It's idol worship. And I said to her, it's idol worship, right? It says very clearly, we can see in the Bible where we can trace these idols and these religions from, these idol-worshipping religions from, I don't want to get into it here in this recording, but the Bible shows very clearly what happened to certain people who were disencamped, people that were thrown out of the encampment, Abraham's encampment, Jacob's encampment, people were thrown out, right? Because they were worshiping idols. They were getting in the way of God's plan of alignment, God's plan for the nation of Israel. So we start to realize that some people were just doing the wrong things, right? So maybe I should be a little bit more specific, but you look at situations like, the story of Isaac and Ishmael, right? We look at the story of Esau, right? We look at the story of, anyway, I could go on into this, but that's not really the subject of this particular recording. What I wanted to say is that each and every one of us could serve the enemy, or we could serve God. But God's way, God's desire, God's plan seems to be inscrutable for a lot of people. People don't always realize what God's plan is. They don't know what God's plan is. For the most part, most people are oblivious to what God's plan really is. I was for years and years. I remember this lady saying to me many, many times, she was saying, well, the reason why you're not successful, the reason why you're not making money, or rather you're not successful, is because you aren't doing God's will. And I kept thinking, but I am doing God's will. I'm following the desires of my heart. God placed desires in my heart. I am doing God's will. But I didn't realize that what my will is and what God's will is are two completely different things. God's will is to, right now, especially at this time, right now in history, God's will is to spread the word, is to get the gospel out. God's will is to bring many souls into the kingdom through praise and worship, through spreading the gospel. God's will right now in the world is to prepare and train evangelists. God's will right now in the world is to make ready, prepare people for trial and tribulation and difficulties and challenges, and to encourage one another with the blessed hope, with their with blessings that can only come from our understanding that our Creator will rescue us, will take us out of harm's way like a good Abba, like a good daddy. So we're definitely needing to reassess what we are actually doing. What are we doing? What are we doing? Because what does the world need? Does the world need another gym instructor? Do you know what I mean? Does the world need another car wash company? Does the world need another Bitcoin banking system? Does the world need another horror movie? Does the world need, and I'm not saying that to knock anybody, because I know there are people on this forum that do all kinds of things. Please, that wasn't to knock anybody. In fact, I could have said anything. I could have said a romantic comedy. I could have said an action adventure film, applying to me. I could have said anything, really. I'm just making a point. I'm just picking examples from all over the place. I'm just saying, does the world need another electrician? Does the world need another gardener? Does the world need another, refuse expulsion company? Does the world need another shipping organization? We need to ask ourselves these questions as every possible profession that's out there. Does the world need that? And of course, the world needs all of these utilities. Most of these things are essential services, right? Most of these things are actually a job or a livelihood for someone. So of course they're important. Of course they're needed. Of course they're super valuable. The point I'm trying to make, though, is, are they actually in alignment with God's purpose for your life? I was telling somebody this evening that when we get raptured, the first thing that's going to happen is that we're going to arrive at the Bema throne room, at the Bema seat, right? Where Christians, those who love Christ, will be rewarded and awarded. You don't want to be standing in line and not receive any rewards or awards. The Bible is very clear, the kinds of rewards that we can receive in heaven by pursuing those rewards. Now, I'm not saying we pursue rewards. I'm not saying we're doing this for awards. I'm not saying that any of that is what's driving or should drive any of us. I get that it's not about that. I understand that. But it is good to know that there are things that we can reach out for. There are things that we can actually go for, we can target, because ultimately those things are what is in alignment with God's plan for humanity here on earth. We are living in the end times. And as we see worldwide, more now than ever before, we see monstrous attacks on people's freedoms and liberties. We're seeing the tyrannical boot of the enemy. You know, the enemy has played his hand so visibly, they're not even hiding it anymore. You know, last year, February, already the United Nations website said that they wanted a new world order. They had already published that, right? You know, you go to the, actually, I don't want to bring certain subjects into a recording like this, but, you know, there's certain things that they're making extremely public, extremely open. It's no longer hidden. Their plans are exceptionally, you go to the World Economic Forum, and the plan is right there. You can download it. You can see how this, you know, these pestilences, that's what I'm going to call it, because you use any other word and you get, you know, banned or censored or deleted or whatever. So you look at the pestilence that's affecting the world right now, right? And it's connected to, you guessed it, the microwave technology, you know, that they're using for telecoms. There's all kinds of things that are going on that the plan of the enemy is bringing into fruition for the complete and total and forever entrapment and enslavement of humanity. And we need to understand what God's plan is for the world right now. God's plan is to keep the world liberated, to keep humanity from falling into this problem and from there being the least number of casualties that take this vac that shouldn't be taking this DNA or mRNA changing vac. So we really are in this place where you cannot afford to be biblically illiterate in the world right now. You have to know what is going on, or you may fall into the quicksand, the quagmire of revelation. You know, you may fall into that place where you can't get out, and then you've lost your eternity. You've lost your salvation. I was telling this friend of mine this evening, I was saying to her earlier this evening, 5 o'clock, I was saying to her, you know what? You absolutely need to research this properly, because you haven't researched it. The links I send you, you're not opening. You're just not paying attention. And because you're not paying attention and you're under this belief that this religion that you believe in so much, which you are going to take into eternity, you know, God forbid, the risk of doing the wrong thing and not really knowing what you're doing, meaning that you will basically stand in the throne room, every knee shall bow, every tongue shall confess that Jesus Christ is Lord, but you're unable to do that because you've always worshipped something else, an idol, you know, an idol, a demonic pagan entity that sought babies for burning. I mean, this is what I'm talking about. You really need to pay attention to what's going on here. As I said to her, I said, the enemy has got you so deceived that 1.2 billion of your people, 1.2 billion of your people are in the bag for him. He's got him. right? I'm trying to show you a way out. I'm trying to explain to you that you need to see this from the perspective of bless the Jewish nation. Understand that God first made contact with one nation, and that those who left the encampment, who got thrown out of the encampment, were because they were worshiping idols. There was a reason why that happened. Fall into alignment with God, because your time is tight, it's short. Soon you will not be able to do any of this. Soon you will no longer be able to earn rewards and awards in heaven and appear at the bema seat. You'll be not lining up, but standing, watching how everyone is awarded and rewarded by Christ on the bema throne. I don't know what to say. When people are awarded, as you know, worldwide for anything. We won awards some years ago for a movie we made, and I sent my producer all the way to the United States to go and collect the Oaxaca Award in Mexico. She had to go and pick up an award at Nashville for our movie, and etc. Now, she flew there to get the award, because that there is where the awards are given out, where those awards are given out. It's the same with the rapture. The reason why we go to heaven first is to go and collect our awards for work well done here on earth. My true and loyal servant. And as the Bible tells us, nothing would give me greater pleasure than to kneel before my Lord and Savior, and for him to say, well done, my true and loyal servant, my faithful servant, my true and faithful servant. Nothing would be giving me greater pleasure than to know that. In times of war, the ambassadors are recalled. They're called home. We are God's ambassadors here on earth. We are the deputized kings and deputized priests of the kingdom. Jesus said, I'm going to leave you. I'm going to deputize you and leave you as kings of the earth while I'm gone. You continue to shepherd and prepare the people, so that when I come and bring you to me, so that you can be with me also where I am, then that's what this is, right? Ambassadors are called home before war starts. Before a tribulation starts, the ambassadors, the deputized kings and priests of Jesus Christ, are called home. So I'm just saying that now is the time to do what's valuable for the kingdom. It's absolutely important. This evening I was at the home of somebody who is very wealthy, a double-story house, lots of fancy cars in the garage, an amazingly huge garage. I think his garage is the size of my home. And again, the question comes up again and again. Are we storing up treasures for ourselves on earth, or are we storing treasures for ourselves in heaven? Right? Because those who are truly, monetarily, materialistically wealthy here on earth may be nothing in heaven. They may not enter heaven, possibly. And those who seem poor in soul, poor people here on earth, who know their shortcomings, who have fallen short of the glory of God, but who have bravely and courageously called out and said, Jesus Christ, come into my heart, Holy Spirit, change me from within. Show me what your plan is so I can align myself with your plan. These are the people who will, the meek shall inherit the earth and shall have the blessings and the rich rewards of heaven. So I'm encouraging everybody tonight to spend a little bit of time, invest a little bit of time in yourself, in getting to know what it is that God actually wants from you, and ask him in prayer. That's the thing with God, is that he reveals himself to you, but you've got to ask. You've got to say, God, reveal yourself to me. I dedicate my dreams to you tonight. Bless me with a vision, with visions. Bless me so that I can see your vision. Bless me so that I can put my plans in alignment with yours, so that you will bless me, Father, so that you will bless me in ways that I cannot even imagine. Please, Father, show me what I need to do, because then I know truly that you will prosper me, that everything I touch shall be successful, not necessarily from a monetary perspective, but will win great rewards and awards at the Bema Throne seat. I'm so excited, but it does really mean that we have to do what is required. We have to change step. We were doing something before, but the world has changed, and we need to do what's now required, what God requires for us to do. Because everywhere I see that there are things happening that have never happened before that I know about. Just recently, I was looking at a Zuna page, which has got jobs, and there's this plethora of jobs for the military, plethora of jobs for police. And I started to realize, look what's happening. The world has changed so much. They're moving in a totally different direction, right? There's an all-outright war possibility coming. There's an all-outright, lawlessness, which we're told biblically is what's going to happen. Father, place me in advantageous positions and places that I might be able to do your work, so that I might be able to prosper the kingdom of heaven with new souls, that I can be a part of your harvesting. There's much work to be done and very few harvesters. Place yourself in God's perfect plan.